If you have a hard time letting go of someone who's not right for you, that's a sign that you're attached. You have very strong feelings for someone that you hardly even know. What is it that has you become attached too soon? One of the things that will become a love barrier to you being able to manifest your love vision is... Hello, everyone, and welcome to Love Chat with the Love Twins. It's Michelle here with you today. The topic for today is we're going to dig deep into what is it that has you, if this is you, or if you know somebody who this is the case for, share this live with them. What is it that has you become attached too soon? How do you recognize the signs that you are becoming attached too soon? And what is it that you can do to be able to get out of that kind of dysfunctional pattern so that it doesn't keep impacting your ability to manifest the love that your heart desires? One of the things that will become a love barrier to you being able to manifest your love vision is becoming attached too soon. So I want to talk to you today about what causes that early attachment. How do you recognize if you're in that, and what you can do differently so that you break that dysfunctional pattern? I'm just looking over here for a moment. If you're here, go ahead and type "I'm here" in the chat so Helene doesn't feel alone. Type "I'm here." This is an opportunity to get yourself seen, to get yourself heard, because one of the things that will have you become attached is the fear of being rejected or the fear of being abandoned. All right, so I'm going to talk about this. But first, what are the signs? So here's one sign, and I have some notes here. That's why you'll see me looking down. So one of the signs of becoming attached is you start to become anxious and worried in the dating process. So what are you anxious and worried about? Is he going to call? Did you make a mistake? Did you say something wrong? Does he like you? What happens when you become anxious about that, it's reflecting back on some insecurity that exists inside of you. So what's going to happen? This is what a lot of women do. You become needy. You become clingy in a dating experience and or a relationship. Why? Because you're afraid that this person is going to go away. This will be a result of, for sure, childhood. So if you were brought up in a home where you felt like you were not seen, where you felt like you weren't being paid attention to, where you felt like you were on your own a lot, or there was another sibling or another situation going on in your family where you felt like that put you in second place, this becoming anxious and worried that you're going to lose someone's attention, you're going to lose their love, you're going to lose their feelings for you, and you're going to be left abandoned or alone will come up. And so that insecurity will have you do things or not do things that will keep you from experiencing that feeling of being alone and abandoned. So what's a real life example of that? So you will text a guy just to see if he'll respond. You'll ask the man out instead of allowing yourself to be pursued. You'll become very worried and anxious. You'll become sleepless about thinking about all the things that can go wrong. So you'll start ruminating about, did I say the right thing? Did I say the wrong thing? What if he thinks that of me? What if he doesn't think that of me? And so what happens is you start to turn yourself into a pretzel to avoid being abandoned or rejected. So if that's something that you have experienced, you could just type me in the chat. Like, you have experienced that over anxiety, that over worry about all the things that I just mentioned. That's a sign that you're becoming attached, because you've got to remember, this is someone that you don't know. This is someone you just met. But the very things that create fear around experiencing those things will have you create behaviors that put you at a disadvantage, because you forget that you are an incredible woman, or maybe you have never had that experience, that you're someone who's worthy of all the things that you want. So this is why doing your heart work is so important. So for those of you who are new, welcome. Welcome. We've got some new heart sisters coming into the group, getting ready for this challenge. We call it heart work, not hard work. See, whatever you don't heal from your childhood, young adulthood, and even adulthood, you carry over into your relationships. Why? Because they're the most intimate experiences you have. And so if you're feeling nervous and worried and anxious about a dating situation, don't you see that that's going to carry over into now? Even if you get in a relationship, you'll never feel like it's enough love, it's enough attention. You'll never feel like you're enough to be able to keep this person's attention. And so you'll become attached, needy, It also can create codependence. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So that's the first thing. So here's another sign of attachment. You have very strong feelings for someone that you hardly even know. So if you've ever experienced that, where you have very strong feelings early on for someone you hardly even know, there's a sign there that you're becoming attached. And what that will look like is that you start to feel like you know this person, but you don't. You start to feel a very strong connection with someone, but connection happens over time. Connection happens over time. So if you're feeling very strongly connected to somebody right away and you hardly even know them, pay attention to that, because it's letting you know that attachment is starting to creep in. You start to act like you're somebody's girlfriend or he's your boyfriend. You stop dating other people. That is a sign of attachment. This is why in our programs, we recommend that you date multiple people. It helps people who have historically been attached learn how to disattach and learn how to date in a way that empowers you, breaking off those dysfunctional dating patterns. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to get your heart broken more times than necessary. And you're going to allow people into your life. Listen to this. You'll allow a man into your life who isn't right for you if you don't get this attachment thing resolved. Because that fear of either being rejected or abandoned, or that fear of anything else that's in the way that has you become attached to someone very quickly, will be the thing that's guiding you in your decisions. Here's the other thing. When you feel very strongly for someone that you hardly know, you'll put up with behaviors you wouldn't normally put up with. Okay? And that'll lead us to the third sign of attachment. So let me just, if you have fallen for someone that you hardly know, even before I go to the third sign, you've fallen like for someone really quickly before you even know them, you rush into relationships. You don't take time to get to know the person, and you kind of like jump from one relationship to another. Maybe you're not even dating. You're just going from relationship X that ends to relationship Y that ends to relationship Z that ends. And you never really have this experience of dating, getting to know someone, giving yourself the opportunity to do that. Then you would fall in this category. So that's you. Then go ahead and put me in the chat. I just want to say hi to those of you who are here. Hi, Regina. Hi, Helene. Hi, Jill. Valerie, hello. Thank you for being here today. Awesome. Janice, thank you for being here today. And if you have a question, you want me to answer something while we're here during the live, go ahead and pop the question in here. Put a question mark in front of it so that when I'm looking through the comments, I can find it quickly, okay? All right. So, hi, Valley. All right. So here's a third sign. So we said becoming anxious and worrying, having strong feelings for someone before you know them, which leads to rushing in. Here's the third one. The third one is you ignore red flags. I'm sorry. Yeah, you ignore red flags. So you see something, your intuition is telling you something, you know something, yet you choose to ignore it. If you've ever done that, type flag in the chat. So I know, so I can tell the difference. Red flag, type red flag in the chat. Here's what happens. When you become attached, you'll ignore red flags because these other things that I just mentioned are playing in the background, but also that very strong feeling of connection, by the way, could be adrenaline that's attached to your old pattern. So it feels familiar and you feel connected to this person. And so how does that lead to ignoring red flags? You'll put so much emphasis on the connection that you are not present. You're not really here. You're in some fantasy in the future. So if you find yourself like ignoring things and fantasizing in the future, you're going to miss what's right in front of you. And this is something that I did consistently before I started doing my own heart work and started doing this work. I would see that the guy was drinking too much, or I would see that, not even see, he would tell me, oh, I'm dating these two other women and I'm separated, or I'm married and I'm seeing this other woman. I'd also like to date you. And instead of me seeing what was really in front of me, which is someone who is already telling me they lie and they cheat, or with the person who drank too much, they have an addiction, I would ignore that because the fear of being alone was bigger than my commitment to myself. There actually was no commitment to myself. I was just committed to being with someone. It didn't matter who the someone was. And if you treated me a little bit better than the one before me, you were in. You were in. So when you ignore red flags, what you're doing is you are going against your intuition. And this is why it's so important to know how to do the work that we do in our programs, which around fear, because you've got to be able to tell the difference between the fear of what you're afraid is or isn't happening or going to happen and what's really there. Many women mistakenly think that their intuition is broken, and it's not. It's just you've ignored it so many times, it's stopped showing up for you. It's just stopped showing up for you as intuition. It's been like muted so many times you don't even hear it. So those red flags are really important. So what are some red flags? Immediately, someone who has an addiction, you will never love somebody into stopping their addiction. And you will always be second place to an addiction, whether that's sex or drugs or alcohol or porn or any addiction. Gambling, you'll always be the second choice. Not because that person is a bad person, but because that person is sick. And they will protect, defend, cover up, and do whatever they have to do to protect that addiction. So that's a red flag. Another red flag is somebody who cheats. Now, I'm not talking about somebody who maybe they've had one affair and they learned the lesson. But how are you going to know? Tell me in the chat, how are you going to know that somebody's learned a lesson from a past infidelity? So the only way you're going to know if someone's overcome that infidelity and learned something from it is over time. Over time. And what I mean by that, you will see how he behaves. Sometimes they'll tell you, maybe not right at the beginning if they need to feel like they can trust you. But over time, and this is why we say slow down, don't rush. Get to know the person. So if somebody says, I had an infidelity, but it was because my ex was this way, or it was because my ex didn't pay attention to me, or it was because, if they're blaming somebody else, red flag. Red flag. Now, if they say, I did that because I didn't feel like I was being paid attention to by my ex, and they don't stop there and they say, and I recognize that was, me making up an excuse or giving myself permission to go and do that. And what I learned is that I get to speak up for what I want, or if I'm not happy in a relationship, I get to make a decision. That's somebody who learned a lesson. You see the difference between those two? So you've got to give yourself the opportunity to get to know someone. Like I had an affair when I was married. I did. When I was 18 years old, very early on in my marriage, I had an affair. I learned that lesson. Now watch this. I learned the lesson. I will not I will not cheat on someone I'm in a relationship with. Guess what happened? Because I didn't heal what was behind me, feeling like I needed to be with somebody else. And by the way, the person I had an affair with, listen for the pattern. Person I had an affair with was somebody who was married, had a mistress, told me about both those people, and then was promising me, the moon and the stars. I learned I'm not going to do that. I didn't like how it felt. I ended up pushing that down for 18 years. I even forgot. I'm not trying to make up an excuse. I forgot about it until I started doing some personal development work, and then combined with what we now call our heart work, that I saw, wow, I was the one who cheated first. Yes, my ex-husband cheated on me, and that's why it ended. But I cheated first. And now here's the thing, I didn't heal that, and I would justify the way that my ex-husband treated me as the reason I did that. So I decided for myself I didn't want to cheat again, but I still was blaming him. Fast forward, 2 years after the divorce, I end up feeling a very strong connection. That connection was familiarity. It was that was connection with the person, was a familiar pattern. I end up meeting a guy. I was at a club, we were talking, and he tells me he's separated. Now, that did not stop me from continuing to talk to him and continue to be interested in him. Then as I kept getting to know him, I found out not only was he separated, he was seeing 2 other women. So now I've multiplied the competition. And so I thought I had learned the lesson because I wasn't doing it while I was in a committed relationship. I was single at the time. And that's not even true. See how the brain blocks it out? I was actually dating somebody exclusively, and I'm talking to this guy because the guy that I was dating exclusively was starting to travel more and more, and I felt the fear of being abandoned. And I started entertaining what was here, and I wasn't really looking at who he was. I wasn't looking at who he was. I wasn't looking at the character. I was looking at all the promises he was making and all the flirtation and all the feeding my ego. So what did I do? I cheated. emotionally on this guy. I didn't do anything while I was still with him. And I didn't run in the other direction when he said, I have 3 women in my life. And I didn't run because I needed the validation that he would choose me. He would choose me over all the other 3. So when you don't heal something, it will continue to follow you. It might look a little bit different, might feel a little bit different, but it's the same pattern. Cheating is cheating. And why was I being attracted to men who cheated? Including the one I was married to, and I ended up cheating on. See, all of this is happening in the subconscious mind. And if you don't have someone guiding you to look at where you have to look at, you'll make the mistakes that I made. That's why you don't have to make them anymore, because I've already made them for you. And now I can teach you how to do it differently, so you don't end up making the mistakes that I made. So that is the third sign, ignoring red flags. So addiction, cheating, and then the third thing, it would be abuse. Abuse. And you'll know if somebody has the tendencies to be abusive by the way that they treat you, also the way that they talk about and treat their own mothers or sisters or the women in their life. Also listen for the stories they're telling you about that. Now, anyone can heal and transform something. How are you going to know? I just told you. How are you going to know if somebody's healed or transformed something? Put it in the chat. Let me know that you're listening. Over time. That's right. Over time, getting to know him, listening, watching, paying attention, and not ignoring the signs. Yes, they own up to their mistakes. Observe them over time. Very good. Awesome. Hey, Aurelie. Let's see. Lesiana also joined us. Patrice. Hi there, ladies. Deborah, good to see you. Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to answer some questions in just a moment. So those are 3 signs. I'm going to touch on another one, and then I want to get into how do you, what are the reasons for those attachments, and how do you really overcome them or rise above them, I should say. So the fourth one is you have a really hard time letting someone go. So when you have a really hard time letting someone go, and it's clear that this person is not a good match for you, how do you know? You're feeling anxious. You're feeling feelings for them, even though they're showing up in a way that's out of character, that's aligned with what you want. You're ignoring the red flags. So if you have a hard time letting go of someone who's not right for you, that's a sign that you're attached. There's something that's having you stay. And it could be that you have some kind of hero complex, right? Some kind of hero or savior complex. I'm going to be enough, do enough, help them enough, and then they're going to transform. And then I'm going to feel like I'm something. That's still super dysfunctional. Can you hear that? Because you're going to waste a lot of time, a lot of energy, and experience a lot of heartache unnecessarily. The other thing is maybe they don't treat you with respect. They treat you disrespectfully, or they disregard your feelings and emotions. And you keep staying with this person, even though it's clear that you're suffering in this relationship. That's a sign that you're attached. Or this person lies and cheats you. Like they lie to you consistently. They don't follow through. They make a promise and then they never go through with that promise. Or they tell you one thing and they do something else. Or you keep finding them in lies. You've got to be careful. A lot of people are using the word narcissistic, but let me tell you, there are narcissists out there, and you want to know how to be able to distinguish them from the good guys. There are also people who are just liars. There are also men who are cheaters. There are also men who are not completely forthcoming. There are also men who are looking for women whose self-esteem is so low and their need for attention, validation, or the fear of abandonment and being alone is high. Those are the ones they'll be attracted to. And here's the thing. And you've got to get this. We have been doing this for over 15 years, almost 16 years now. And I'm telling you, this is a fact. When you have confidence issues, insecurity issues, you have unhealed child wounds, you have a need for validation outside of you, you will attract men who feed off that energy. They're not going to say that, and you're not going to say that, but that will draw you together. So if you look at the patterns of the men that you've been attracting and the ones you've been in relationship with, just notice what's the energy that brought that person to you. And it's the same energy, by the way, that will block a high quality man from being attracted to you. So how important is it to know how to turn this around if you want to manifest your love vision? You've got to know what's in the way without judging yourself. If your self-esteem right now is not high, don't judge yourself for that. How in the world is it going to rise up if you keep judging yourself for that? Instead, say, I'm going to get myself in a community like this one. I'm going to take the action. I'm going to join the Manifest Your Love Vision Challenge. I'm going to put myself for 5 days in a position where I can learn how to transform that in myself so that I don't need anybody else telling me how awesome I am. I know I'm awesome. I can be humble about that. And thank you. Your compliment is bonus. It's not the whole meal. It's bonus. How many of you are hearing what I'm saying? How many of you are hearing what I'm saying? Because this is really important. It's not that complicated. Being in a committed, loving, happy, healthy relationship is not complicated. It feels complicated, and it gets complicated when you don't know what to look for and you don't know how to stop the patterns that are getting in the way. That's when it feels complicated and hard. Okay? I'm going to answer a question here real quick before I move into telling you the reasons behind all that attachment. So it says, how do you handle when someone is on the dating site and wants to meet you in 2 weeks of talking to you on the site? How long should you talk on the site, and how often? We meet in the first month. How do you keep it slow, and how do you check if he lies? Okay, and this is Aurelie. So Aurelie, you want to stay on the app minimum 1 week, ideally 2, maybe let's say 8-9 days. Why? Because as you're communicating with this person, if something comes up about that person's account on the app and you're off the app, you won't receive the message that says this person's profile has been taken down because it's questionable, or whatever the wording is that each of the apps make. 2, if you are in a rush to get off the app and they are in a rush to get off the app, there's a sign there that there's going to be a rush to move into other things, and you're not giving yourself the opportunity to see how the interaction on the app goes, to see if there's someone that you do want to talk to, that you do want to spend more time with, because that's an investment of your time, and you and your time are valuable. A man who wants to get off the app right away, and he's going to say things like, my subscription is ending, or I hardly check this app, so I'd like to be able to see your messages sooner. All of that, if they say that, don't take it personally. It works with other women. You are an irresistible, high-value woman. You get to courageously and confidently, convictedly say, I prefer to stay on the app and get to know each other a little longer before sharing my phone number, whether that's a Google phone number or whether it's whatever else, or my email address. This is how you can be aware and awake without having to be alert and on guard, which puts fear at the forefront. You get to be aware and awake, which puts your higher self in the forefront. And if he doesn't like that, then he gets to move on. Do you see how some of the tendencies, and I'm just talking to Aurelie, is how do I keep him from going away, is a little bit of attachment fear. If he's a great guy, he's going to see your willingness to stand for what's important to you as admirable and even inspirational. He's going to see that you stand out from the crowd. And if he doesn't, next. There's a billion other people out there that you could connect with that are going to see that what you say is important to you matters. Okay? So again, over time, you'll know if somebody consistently puts down your thoughts, or says, one of my clients, she was saying, I would prefer 24 hours notice before being asked out, because he was asking out the last minute. He said, oh, that's like being a princess or something like that, or princess attitude. And she's like, no, that's what I want. Well, she's our client, so she learned how to communicate. No, that's what I want, and I don't appreciate the comment. How much more time does she need to spend with somebody who's, after just a week of interacting and maybe 1 or 2 dates, which is very fast, by the way. That's the coaching that's coming. She's already in person and already, hearing that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing you want to give yourself time to know. So stay on the app for at least a week minimum to 9 days, 10 days, then move into texting. And you can get a Google number so that you don't give out your personal information. A lot people can find out a lot about you with your cell phone number. And then as you're talking, have at least texting a couple more days. And then when you get on the phone, have at least 2 conversations, continuing to get to know each other. And if a guy asks you out before that, we're really talking about a 2.5 to 3 week process. You can let him know, I really am enjoying the conversation, and I'd love to get together after we get to know each other a little bit better. Or after getting to know each other a little bit better would be even better stated. Okay. So that's how you keep it. And then you go out on dates and all the other dating fundamentals that we talk about in our programs and at the Extraordinary Love Intensive. Okay. All right. So I'm going to jump right in here and talk to you about the reasons for the attachment. So one, that fear of abandonment and rejection is going to pull you to want to be um, anxious and worried about, is he going to like me, this and that. So to break off that energy, to break off that pattern, you really get to heal for yourself those childhood wounds that had you feeling like you weren't important, or you were second to X. It could be a brother or sister, it could be your parents' job, it could be somebody who was sick in the family, it could be your parents' attention towards each other. Maybe they traveled a lot, they left you with your grandparents, whatever it is. You want to heal that so that you don't feel like you need to be so worried about what the other person is thinking or they're going to leave. And instead, you leave the door open for the ones who are a match for who you are and what you want to experience and what you value. Okay. A man who is a high value man is going to be attracted to a woman who's confident and knows who she is and feels secure in her own skin. And if you think men can't pick up on that, or if you think they won't notice after some time, just like you're getting to know them over time, guess who else is getting to know somebody over time? He is. And if you start showing up as needy and you start showing up as clingy, then if he's a high quality guy, it's going to feel like it's a lot of work. That's why getting your confidence up is really important, but not just playing it, really being it. Okay. The rushing into relationships, I just talked about that. What causes you rushing into a relationship is you're focusing on the things that aren't important, like his character. So maybe he's being overly charming. He's taking you to these great places. Awesome. You deserve that. How is he treating you? Is he listening to you when you say, I prefer to, take it slow, or this is too soon for me, or I prefer to stay on the app? Is he paying attention to that? Is he listening to that? Is he saying, I respect that? Or is he criticizing, ridiculing, or undermining that? Pay attention. Let me see. I'm looking. I don't want to miss any of this. Is your value system off? Are you sacrificing your values and boundaries because you just want to get into a relationship? So you never want to get into a relationship because you need someone. It will become a codependent relationship because the only people who want to be in relationships with people who need someone are the people who need to be needed. And then you create a codependency. So you want to really be able to take your time getting to know someone, learn how to date effectively, which is what we teach, and give yourself the opportunity to weed out the ones who aren't right for you and really keep bringing in the ones who are. How are you going to know that? You've got to know how to date. You got to know what you're looking for. Okay. You got to know how to manifest what you want. The third thing is you'll also rush into things if somebody's treating you better than the last guy, which good. I mean, that's great. He's treating you better. Is it really everything that you want? Is it really everything you want to experience in the dating experience that will move into a relationship? Well, you got to know what you want in order to be able to create that. And you've got to know what to look for. All right. And again, this is why it's so important to heal those childhood and young adult and even adult wounds. Because if you were cheated on for the first time as an adult, you still got to learn how to heal that, because otherwise you're going to either be high alert for liars and cheaters, or you're going to keep attracting them, or you're just going to give up altogether because you don't want to get hurt. Okay. All right. And then the third thing that's going to, that will have you end up in this early attachment is emotional immaturity. And I cannot emphasize enough how important being emotionally mature, emotionally intelligent is, not just for relationships, but for your life. For your life. If you are triggered easily, if you're a reaction in an argument waiting to happen, if you are someone who's easily offended, then you get to elevate your emotional maturity. We're going to be going into this because you've got to learn how to master managing your thoughts and your emotions. Otherwise, your toxic emotions, your insecure thoughts, the limiting beliefs that you have, the fear of what will or won't happen will continue to dictate your love life. It'll continue to, even beyond that, it'll continue to dictate how you show up in life, who you get to be in life, what you can and can't do in life, and what you can create. Super, super, super important. You got to learn how to regulate your emotions. You got to learn how to what to do in a moment of extreme anxiety, offendedness, anger, confusion. How do you get yourself out of that state so you end up doing what is effective in that situation rather than what's reactive in that situation? And by the way, no action when there is when it's a moment where it would be appropriate to take an action, is a reaction. For example, if you just go blank and you don't know what to say, that's something that's impacting your ability to manifest your love vision. If you're somebody who gets upset easily, that is blocking you from being able to attract an emotionally mature man into your life. So you can't attract who you're not being already. You can't attract what you're not ready for. And you can't think that a man who is emotionally mature is going to, and high value, is going to put up with that kind of behavior for very long. Because anybody who respects themselves wants to be with somebody who respects themselves and is going to respect them. So learning how to do that, it's not hard. You just have to learn how to do that. It's not difficult. You just have to know what to do. How do you interrupt a pattern that's negatively impacting you, your life, your relationships, your intimate relationships? Knowing how to be able to be in any situation and not be the victim of that situation. Knowing how to be in a conversation and not be the victim of the conversation. Knowing how to be in life and not being the victim to what life is throwing at you, and instead saying, okay, this is what life is throwing at me. This is what's happening in this conversation. This is what this person said, and being able to respond quickly, effectively, and still showing up in your absolute best version of you. That in and of itself is something that will carry you through life and have you be successful everywhere. Let me tell you something. And I say this with, it may sound like I'm bragging, and I'm not. I think you've gotten from this love chat and from being with us before that Gladys and I tell it like it is. I have become in my life a master manifester. I manifested my relationship with Arnie. I manifested it even when it looked like it wasn't going to happen. I manifested the exact kind of relationship I wanted to experience and beyond that, because it blows my mind still all these years later. 17 years we've been together. I manifested the wedding that I wanted, exactly down to the T. I manifested the 3 places we went to. Actually, we manifested our wedding, and Arnie and I was there. The 3 honeymoon places we wanted to go, and only ended up paying for 1. I've manifested money miracles. I've manifested health miracles. I've manifested the home I am doing this live from. A home that had $180,000 lien in taxes and fines and all kinds of things were wiped out, 0 balance, and we were able to get this house. You want to learn how to manifest quickly? Take actions that make a difference. Take actions that are connected to your commitments, your love vision. Share it with someone this is going to make a difference with. If you want to learn how to manifest abundance, start being generous. Start by being generous. Who cares if they say yes or no? You did what was there and aligned with your heart for them. They say no, send it to somebody else. Create an environment around you that supports you, not the people who are just going to sit around and hear you complain, but the ones who are going to say, hey, remember what they said in that challenge in June? When this situation comes up, you want to manifest something different than what you have. This is what you do. Create an environment around you that is going to support you in creating the most extraordinary life and love your heart desires. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to go. I don't see any other questions. Just looking again. All right. All right, let's go, Helene. You've transformed your family a lot. So instead of them being the mirror of what you don't want, how about you start showing up? And I'm not saying that you're not, but you really take it to the next level. You show up in a way where they start seeing you as the mirror that they get to be. How about that for something to manifest? That you know yourself as somebody who can do that. See, when you become a space of power, people learn they can't mess with you. And if they learn they can't mess with you, not because you're being hard and you're being like in their face. No, they can't mess with you because you're unshakable when it comes to, I want peace in my life. I want joy in my life. I want happiness in my life. Quickly, Regina, yes. You become unmessable with. And they can throw whatever they want at you. And you're like, yeah, I'm not available for that. When I decided I wasn't available for liars, cheaters, alcoholics, any of that, they stopped showing up in my life. In my marriage, we are both unavailable for drama and conflict. That's why we have such an amazingly peaceful life. Joyful, fun, all of it. So become the space for what you want and watch how your environment shifts. You have to learn how to do that. It's not going to come just because you affirm it 1,000 times in your head. I promise you, if that was it, I would be living in Italy right now. Not that I'm never going to do that, but I'm telling you, I've said that a million times. I got to learn, I got to create a plan, and I got to learn what I need to do in order to go there. That's why I have a coach. So you get to have a coach too. Okay, Regina, you said, I met a guy on, oh no, wait. Okay, I met a guy online for 3 weeks. We met, I like him. He showed me respect. We talk a lot, then keep texting me. Then short time he wanted sex. I said, let me get to know you. And now he doesn't text or call. Okay, Regina. So he's telling you something. What is he telling you? You're not confused about this, my love. Nobody else answer. I want Regina to answer this question. If you are, so listen to your coach here. We're going to take out confusion. We're going to bring in your clarity and your knowingness. A man is texting you. He's texting you a lot. He shows up. He treats you with respect. He keeps texting you. And then he says he wants sex. And when you say, I would like to get to know you a little better, he doesn't text or call. What is that telling you? Nobody else answer. I want Regina to answer, and then we're going to wrap up because this is important. Thank you, Rose, for popping that in here. Regina, what is that telling you? He's telling you something. Now, before you all start judging the guy, he's saying what he wants, right? He's saying what he wants. She says what she wants, and then he does that. Yes. You see how you're not confused? That's what he wanted. And when that wasn't available because you stood for yourself, your value, and your boundary, he went away. That is great news. That's great news that he went away because you found out early on. Don't send him any, negative. Thank you for getting out of the way. Thank you for getting out of the way. And then thank yourself and give yourself a hug. Like, give yourself a hug. Thank you for standing for what I wanted. I just saved myself months, perhaps even years of suffering. And let it go. Okay? All right, one more question. How does one not become attached after 3 months of dating when there are not any other guys to date? So here's what I know to be absolutely true. If no other guys are showing up and it's just this one person, you've probably become attached already because your energy shifts and you are no longer available and accessible to other men when your energy is pouring into one person. 2, if you met this person online, then there's something in your profile that you get to shift and update. Listen to the love chat that Gladys did a couple weeks ago on profiles. Okay. So you're either already attached and that energy is there. You've got something on your profile that's other men are not finding attractive. So you get to use the coaching that Gladys left on that love chat. What else could it be? It could also be that you're not putting yourself in enough situations where you can meet men. So that doesn't have to necessarily be a bar. It could be Gladys and Rick met at a bar dancing. But what other things do you enjoy doing that you can put yourself in that situation? Now, do you see how important it is to be able to have high self-esteem, high confidence? Because if you're going to walk into a room and go hide in the corner, what difference is that going to make unless you have another person who likes hiding in the corner and they happen to be there? Which, maybe that's what you want. I don't know. You got to get clear what you want. All right. Okay, now I'm really going to end the love chat. If you're watching the replay, type #replay and let us know what you got out of it. And until our hearts meet again, always remember that you are loved. Goodbye for now.